Hi guys, Alec, Peirce at the ranch, and here I am working on a kind of a dirty job, but I've been putting this off for a while, and I've done it before, and I need to do it again. We have a zero-turn mower. Our particular mower is a Toro time cutter, common model, SS5000. It's a 50-inch mower deck on it with 3 blades. You're going to see some pictures. There's quite a few pictures in this video for you to look at. And the machine itself is fantastic. It runs really, really well. It has a Kawasaki, I think it is. It has Kawasaki 2-cylinder engine, lots of power, runs smoothly, starts well. Everything's really good. All the electrics, the wheels, hydrostatic drive. You know what a zero-turn is. One of those fancy drives like a tank. And it's been great. We have a lot of a lawn to cut here, up and down the laneway as well as around the house. And it's done a great job for us. Now, we've had this for almost 8 years now, and been doing a great job for us. It's not inexpensive, but it's well worth the extra cost to get a decent mower if you have a large property. Used to take me about 4 hours to cut the lawn. Now it takes me 1. But the biggest problem I have found is not so much from the work that it does, but from the fact that the bottom, the inside of the deck, gets completely covered with wet grass clippings. And those wet grass clippings I have found are very, very hard on the steel deck. Now this deck is a strong deck, made of heavy gauge metal. I'm not sure what it is, but it's heavy gauge metal. This is not tin. And the likelihood of it rusting through, while it exists and does happen with some cheaper mowers, is unlikely with this. But the deck itself does get rusty. It gets jammed up with grass. And then the mechanism itself, the blades, the bearings, the pulleys, and so on, also start to deteriorate. So over time, the whole deck deteriorates to the point where, quite frankly, you're dealing with a mower deck that is simply not doing its job, and it's time to replace it or repair it. Replacement is an expensive option. As soon as you start to replace parts on any kind of a $5,000 machine, it runs into a lot of money. So I decided that I would try to renew this deck. I've done something like this before, and it's not that big a job. If it seems to you, looking at your mower, that it's a big job, break it down. And you might find, as I have found in the past and here, that it's not that big a job, that anybody who can spin a wrench can actually restore his mower deck to almost like new performance and looks. Now this mower deck here, Dan, maybe if you can get it in the picture, this mower deck here, you'll tip it up a little bit so you get a better picture. This is the mower deck from our SS5000. Supposedly it's 50 inches, so I think that's measuring across. And it has 3 blades, 3 blades, 20 inches long. That wouldn't be right, whatever it is. Blades that spin on here. And these are those special blades with the uplift that create a draft and pick up the grass and throw it out the end into a bag or across the lawn. Pretty straightforward. So the first step, of course, is to get your mower deck out. And you just check in the owner's manual, because every owner's manual will show you how to get your mower deck separate from the machine, separate from the motor and the wheels. This particular one, you can see there's 2 hooks on the back. It just sits on a rod, 2 hooks at the back, and on the front there's a rod that comes down with a pin, and you simply lift the front, take the pin out, and you lift this up like that, take it off the hook, and slide it out. I make it sound very simple. The only thing I left out is the fact that you have to disconnect the belt. Not a really big deal. Take the belt out. Now, if you have lost the owner's manual, and you're not exactly sure how the belt goes back in, I suggest you take a picture, first of all, of how the belt threads through the various pulleys. There are 6 pulleys that this goes through, and you want to get it threaded properly. Now, you may have on your deck, as I do, right on my deck right here, and I was careful when I painted this not to cover up that little wiring delta diagram, belting diagram, how about that? It shows exactly how the belt goes. I didn't want to lose that, okay? So take the belt off. Make sure you know how it goes back on. Put the belt to one side. Of course, you should take a look at it and make sure it's in good shape. And this one is. I changed the belt not a long time ago. Now, when you get the belt off, what you're looking at now is the working part of any decent lawnmower. The mower deck, it's called. And this particular one, as I said, has three pulleys, 3 blades on it. So what it has in 3 spots spread out, it has a mechanism like this, okay? Just about that simple. This one looks brand new because it is, in fact, brand new. And this mechanism is simple, very, very simple. On the top, up here on the top of the deck, there's a pulley. You can see it here. There's a pulley, just like that. And then on the bottom, there's a bolt that goes in there, and the blade goes on the bottom. And this bolts onto the deck, just like that. So the pulley on top has a belt. The engine drives the belt and spins the blade. Blade cuts the grass. It's just that simple. Now, it didn't look like, they don't look like this when you take yours apart. Here's one of mine right here. Can I get a close-up of that, Diana? This is the way it looks like this. So you can see brand spanking new, cast aluminum, 2 bearings, and a pin through the middle. I'll show you all that. And there's my old one there. I could have cleaned these up, and I might still do that. If you want to, if you're a little bit handy, you can actually take it. There it is again. You can actually take it, and you'll find that it has a bearing in the top, another bearing in the bottom, and then in addition to that, there is a spacer that goes between the 2 bearings, and then there is the shaft that goes right through the whole mechanism. It's really quite simple. So there's a shaft, it spins on a spacer, there's a bearing, top and bottom, and you can actually take it apart, as I've done with this one. You just tap the bearing out, reach down with a punch, tap the bottom bearing, tap it out, that bearing falls out, turn it over this way, tap the other bearing out, and you got it out. Now this, with enough work, would look like this. And I was going to do that. I was going to restore these completely clean, sandblast, and then buy the bearing. You can buy new bearings. These bearings are only 10, 50. If you pay $15 for the bearing, you pay too much. Just take the bearing into your local bearing shop, hand it to him, and say, I need six of these. And he'll, okay, that's the number, and he'll give you 6 of them. And if you pay him $50, you know, I'd be surprised. And then you just press them back in with the spacer in between, and you've got brand new ones. They may not look exactly like this, but they'll look pretty good. I was going to do that, but then I went on to the internet, and I discovered that you can buy these parts relatively inexpensively. So I bought a set of these 3 bearing carriers for the blade, 3 of those. I also got 3 new blades, 3 brand new blades, and I got 3 pulleys as well, idler pulleys. Because there's 3 drive pulleys that have a blade on them, and there's 3 idler pulleys. Idler pulleys are the pulleys that just sit there and spin because the belt goes around to keep tension on the drive pulleys. 3 of those, done, everything included. So 3, the bearing carriers, 3 blades, and a new belt thrown in, and 3 idler pulleys. Everything, $150. Well, the Toro dealer, my Toro, wants $150 for one of these. I got a set of 3 belt, 3 blades, and 3 idler pulleys. So I decided, what the heck, I spent that little bit of money. It just makes it a lot easier. It makes a 3-day job into a 1.5 or 2-day job. So that's why this looks brand new. So now the first thing you need to do once you get the deck out here like this is take it apart. Just get out your wrenches. Most of these are if it's American made, are 9/16 and 1/2 inch. I think they're the largest wrenches I used. Some sockets and some flat, and start taking things apart. These bolts on the bearing carriers here, on the housings, I suggest you use an impact wrench. It's just easier. Fit an impact wrench on that, and it comes right off. Because if you don't use that, then you have to hold the blade somehow, which can be dangerous and difficult. And so you take the impact wrench and take that off, and the pulley, the drive pulley, which fits in there, comes off as well. Same on the bottom, on the blade, impact wrench, comes off, and the blade comes off. So you end up with your bearing. So take those 3 things out, and they come out with 4 bolts. Now, one thing I ran into when Diana and I was helping, she was helping me when I broke. If you take a look here, you'll see that these were so badly corroded in there. You see how bad it is. That when I was taking these bolts out, they actually broke. This one came out quite easily, but these 3 broke. So if I was going to renew this particular one with new bearings and so on, I would have to drill and remove those broken bolts that are in there. Not a problem, of course, if you have new ones, but you can do it. So take them out, take all those parts out, keep them organized, take pictures as you go along, and then just keep taking things off the deck. Just take them off. There really only are usually a couple of idler pulleys, so you have a couple more pulleys. The idler pulleys are really just a pulley, just a wheel. They do have a bearing in them and a bolt on top, and they literally, I'll put one on right here so you can see it, they literally sit there and they bolt on. Just as easy. Okay, take the bolts out, take it out. Okay, and when you get all that off of there, look for everything else. I found all kinds of neat little things. On one of the idlers, there's a spring-loaded mechanism, looks kind of like this, bolt in the middle, bolt in one end, and this is spring-loaded, and that keeps the tension on the belt. Well, this unhooks, and 2 bolts, and that's off. That was easy. And on this particular machine, there's a couple of neat little fittings on each end, and these are to supposedly wash the deck off underneath. These simply bolt on, 2 bolts, and you connect your hose to that with a quick disconnect fitting. So supposedly at the end of the day's cutting, you can hook up your hose to this and run the mower at high speed, turn on the water, and the water gets whipped around inside and cleans it off. That's the theory. It doesn't work. It cleans. There's Patchy letting me know that she wants to talk. Anyway, it's a neat idea, and maybe it does help. But the grass is sticky and wet when it gets cut, even on a dry day. When you cut the grass, the edges are sticky, and it builds up in there and sticks to the metal, and no amount of water blowing in there is going to get it off. The only way to clean these properly is to take the deck off, turn it over, blast it with water and soap, and use a scraper to clean it off properly each time. It's just too much work. It turns a 1 hour long cutting job into a 2 or 3 hour job. So I've completely cleaned this, both sides, top and bottom. Took a long time, a couple of hours. I made a really good job, right down to the metal as much as possible, not all of it, as much as possible down to the metal. And then I put on 2 coats of a good metal enamel on the bottom, on your side, and another coat on top just to clean it up. Making sure I didn't hide that decal that shows the threading of the belt. So here we go. Now, I think I neglected to mention one of the main reasons for doing this is the bearings. And I wanted you to do this. Come a little closer here, Diana. Can you come a bit closer? Because I want you to hear. This is one of the old housings, the bearing housings, and with the old blade on it. Okay, that's what it looks like. Listen. You ought to be able to hear that grinding away in there, and that's a sealed ball bearing, 2 sealed ball bearings. That's what it sounds like on that old one. Listen to this one. Nothing, no sound at all. So that's one of the main reasons, because the bearings get really noisy. You start to chatter in there, and pretty soon they're destroyed, and you find blades are banging on the bottom of the deck and destroying the deck. So that's one of the main reasons for actually even in doing this, other than to get it clean and working properly again. So now the rest is very simple. As I mentioned in the last little section there, all you really need to do is get your wrenches out, take the deck completely apart. Now keep everything in nice clean order, mark everything or put it in separate boxes and keep it nice and neat so you know where everything goes. You don't want to have the embarrassment having to take all the bits and pieces into your tour or dealer and saying, hey, can you put this back together for me? And then it's just a matter of putting it back together. These bearing housings are very simple. They have 4 bolts, and this is the bolt for the pulley on top. And these go from the bottom, obviously, down like this, come up through the housing, 4 bolts, so it ends up looking like this right here. Now on this one, I've actually mounted the pulley on it, and you can't see it, but there's actually a blade underneath as well. So this mechanism here, which is silent, no sound at all, is ready to go. I need 2 more to go, and after I have those on, then I'll bolt on my new idler bearings. Use the old bolts, and there's a washer goes on there as well, and a washer and a bolt, and the 3 idler pulleys. 2 bolt right straight to the deck, and the 3rd one is the one that's on the spring-loaded lever to keep tension on the belt. A couple other small nuts and bolts to put it back on. The blade deflector, just a plastic deflector, is on a spring. That's easy enough to figure out and get it back together. Get it all back together, and everything's spinning properly and looking nice. put it back into the machine itself, get it reloaded onto the machine, hook up the belt. It'll take a few minutes, make sure the belt's on there properly, start your machine and go cutting grass. And you have just saved yourself a lot of money. As I said earlier, I suspect that this particular job, if you took it to your dealer, would be, well, it'd be more than $1,000, $1,500 in that area. And I think so far I've got a couple $100 invested, tops, a little bit of money. And I did show you, you'll see some pictures there, how Diane and I clean the underside of this deck using a variety of tools, scrapers and metal brushes and flapper wheels. Got it spots it clean and painted. It looks like a brand new machine and it works really well. Anyway, I've got to get this bed together. Grass is growing and it's beautiful and sunny out. And I've got to get this bed together so I can cut the grass in the morning. Give it a try. It's really not a big job. Saves you an awful lot of money and a lot of satisfaction as well. Hope that was helpful to you guys. Pull your mower deck out. Take a look at it. You might be surprised how easy it is to restore your own mower deck. Talk to you again real soon. Alec Peirce at the Wrench. Bye-bye.